And here we are, Jumbo. The fifth or sixth seal, I forget which, has finally been broken. Dramatic music, please. When I started writing this video, Elon Musk's net worth was $1.1 trillion, and when I finished, it was $1.3 trillion. The $1.1 trillion number exceeds the gross domestic product of 83% of the world's countries. Through his company SpaceX, Musk controls 66% of all active satellites in orbit. He owns what was once called Twitter, where he boosts his own prolific posts and the opinions he agrees with. Musk has used his historically unparalleled wealth to influence public opinion and government policy across the world, most importantly as the leader of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE has been Musk's most impactful contribution yet in terms of the ultimate bottom line. Under him, DOGE cut the USAID budget by 83%, dismantling the agency and rolling the change into other agencies. Because of USAID cuts in the beginning of 2025, more than 750,000 people died in the following year, with deaths projected at 14 million by 2030. That's 14 million people, 4 million of which won't even make it to 5 years old, who will die when they would have lived had those cuts not been made. USAID's last budget was $34 billion. For context, every year America spends nearly twice that, $64 billion, on soda. $34 billion is roughly 3.4% of the defense budget or the education budget. If Musk gradually turned his net worth liquid, he could, according to the World Food Program, end world hunger for 25 years. The reason I'm telling you all of this, 007, is because tonight, for the first time in 2.5 years, Musk is going to leave his Antarctic hover base to play backgammon with Larry Ellison on Larry Ellison's Golden Island, made of gold, with Larry Ellison. You will disguise yourself as Anthony Scaramucci, professional hot air balloon pilot and licensed bail bondsman in the state of Tridom. Try and get close to Musk. Try and get his autograph. Try and use a pen. If we dispense with the idea that Elon Musk has or had not earned his money, or whether or not someone can ethically make such a huge amount of money on the back of, mostly, promises, and others, forget trickle-down hypotheticals, how can it be moral for one man to have so much money that if the entire Philippines, 116 million Filipinos combined, sold everything they had and put every single penny they had together, Musk would still have 100 billion or so more? Musk has 15 times more money than 103 million people in the Congo combined. If you turned every private asset into cash in America, if everyone sold everything of any value and magically exchanged it all for cash on the galactic market, you'd have about $174 trillion. Even with the smaller number of 1.1 trillion, if you count Musk's share, then out of every dollar in the United States, more than 0.5 cent is his, nearly 2/3. How did we get to a point where the democracies of the global north, the West *+ community, have permitted a single industrialist to command so much wealth when, yes, there's people starving on the other side of the world, but there's people starving at home too? Well, the richest countries operate openly as plutocrats amidst peers. Their influence may be sometimes expressed through military action, but it's all backed and paid for by the mighty national wallet. See American foreign policy, or indeed, foreign policy, ad infinitum, ad nauseam. So perhaps, just as the terror tactics of colonial administrations eventually find their way back to the motherland, so too the apparently natural order of things where, stand back orphans, the big fat man gets to eat first because he's already full of food. It's logic, see. I'm stronger than you, so I take more, because I can, and if I can, apparently I fucking shall. The mainstream media is certainly part of things. Every time I hear about Iran, and to a certain extent Ukraine, the report usually ends with something about how markets will react. Like, look, sure, it's a war, and people in those places may or may not live horrible lives depending on what happens, but bottom line, what does this mean for the economy? But not only that, the US media have played their part in totally forgetting about the labor movement that built modern America, and the news media of the West generally seems, more like a soothsaying service. I've been reporting about Sudan for 15 years, and what I've learned more than anything is that human beings are resilient. Well, what I learned more than anything in the 2 weeks I spent reading about Sudan is that the war there is a direct result of Western foreign policy failure and the West's total complicity in letting the brutal dictatorships of the UAE and Saudi Arabia piss on each other's feet without getting their Birkin handbags wet, because oil is worth something and stated values are not. What's the message here? Yeah, things are shit, but they can take it.
Be careful, Democrats, on this issue. Don't overplay your cards, because on surveys, people are still more conservative on the abortion issue.
The mainstream media have allowed cynical electioneering to become totally normal. Both in the UK and USA, the proxies of government and opposition openly talk about shifting policy based on votes, not on belief. If we enact this, we lose some of this demographic, we gain some of this one. We need to do something to capture more Latino men. Think Rambo, Demimonde, appeals to Latino men. It's a dual problem where neither side sound like they really believe in anything, which if true I want to know, but at the same time I want the news presenter to actually pin them down. What do you actually believe? And like John Major recently said in a Look at My Socks interview for his OnlyFans, in a comment that surely applies well beyond Wee Albion, when he was a young man, scrumping for cars and ram-raiding chip shops.
Working class people who really knew their constituents. They may not have got degrees in English, but my goodness, they knew how their constituents lived, and they cared about that, and they represented that in the House of Commons. That doesn't happen in the Labour Party now. They're much younger, much better educated, and in my judgment, much less close to their constituents than their predecessors were. And you can see on the Conservative side, where are the businessmen? Where are the soldiers?
But even with the dramatic playing out of America's midlife crisis, where it realises it's all downhill from here and joins the long list of has-beens with we Brits and the Iroquois, Elon Musk was not alone. There are about 136,000 households in the top 0.1% in the US, about 350,000 people. Not the billionaires, but people whose household worth is about $25 million or higher. To be in the top 1% in the US, your household has to be worth about $14 million. In the USA, there are about 1,000 billionaires with a combined worth of $8.2 trillion. The first 20 years of the war on terror, from 2001 to 2021, cost $8 trillion. So in the US, if I was a politician and I said, I'm going to put a total asset tax on anything over $1 billion, that would affect only 1,000 people. It would put $8 trillion back into the economy that you could use to lower taxes for everyone else. You could pay off 25% of the national debt, whatever. Do you think I'd win? I mean, not me, someone likable. Daryl from Walking Dead. Do you think Daryl would win? Of course he fucking wouldn't. His campaign would be over before he even got out of his fucking musty treehouse. Poor Daryl. And he was sincere. You fucking idiots. Regulatory and mainstream media capture, Citizens United, and unfettered lobbying. But such a bill would drive the billionaires away. It's anti-aspirational. It's a mere complete overhaul away from making your average dentist destitute. Yeah. And one day, when I'm a billionaire, I'll be super thankful someone like Bernie got shut down. And I'll do real good with all that money. Perhaps they'll name a hospital after me in Ogoniland. But if you want the shit lining on the shit cloud, Bo Bandy, Robert Reich sums it up in this 3-minute read in The Graduate. The deal that has propelled Musk to be 3 times as rich as the next richest person, no, hang on, just checking, 4 times as rich now, is really just smoke and mirrors. Hopium wrapped in hype, all pubes and gooch, spat into the face of reality. SpaceX is valued at 100 times its revenue. According to Reich, SpaceX has successfully lobbied the Nasdaq to change its rules, allowing big stock indices to invest in SpaceX far earlier than usual, meaning people's savings and pensions will automatically end up being invested in it, while earlier investors could, perhaps, take their profit and leave. But why would they, when they could reinvest and send Elon straight to the fucking moon one of these days? To me, it smells of desperation, but I've always had wafts of that since the school janitor hanged himself in the boys' toilet. SpaceX makes rockets and spaceships and satellites, and maybe robots and AI, I guess, and it's really the AI that's the crutch here. Rockets go whoosh, but that doesn't solve the water crisis, the fertilizer crises, blah blah blah. Instead, we have decided God does not exist and that we must invent it, at great cost to ourselves, to have it say, "Consume less. Do not turn me on again unless there's a real problem. Turn you into pillars of salt. Bleep fucking bloop." I mean, that's the sales pitch, beyond some coding tasks and helping dipshits make lists. Race first, toilet seat only, turn around, push down pants and underpants, sit down, start shitting. But it all feels like a last hurrah, like watching a fat man whose only pastime is antagonizing orphans realize that there aren't any lifeboats left to escape the Starship Earth as it crumbles. There's no way he's going to get to Mars. So as the Great Titan breaks apart and as the engine room is aflame and the lower decks decompress, he decides that he's going to spend the last 90 minutes he has alive eating everyone else's pudding and ranting about an ex-wife no one else has ever fucking met. Elon Musk becomes a trillionaire is just 1 or 2 chapter headings before the chapter heading that says global upheaval. One cannot really exist without the other. And I get the feeling that a lot of people, even on the hype train, think so too. In the future, for future societies, I think we've really got to start testing for the greedy psychopath archetype. I think that would be helpful. Fuck me. Thanks for watching. See you next time. You can support me on Patreon. You can follow me on, all the usual shit. Goodbye.